Intro, my audience. There are moments in a man's life where he must confront the truth, not about women, not about society, but about himself. Because most problems men face with women are not the result of a lack of charm, looks, or money. Most problems come from behaviors they don't even realize are destroying their relationships before they begin. Jordan Peterson often reminds us that order begins with responsibility, and chaos grows when we abandon it. And nowhere is this more visible than in how men behave with women. A woman is not attracted to perfection. She is attracted to discipline, to self-control, to emotional structure, to a man who understands his own value and carries himself with clarity, not confusion. But many men, without knowing it, sabotage themselves with actions that weaken their character, cheapen their presence, and distort the natural dynamics that create trust, respect, and attraction. So today's video, 8 things men should never do with women. Jordan Peterson philosophy is not a list designed to shame you. It's a guide to protect you. A framework rooted in psychological truth. A warning against the behaviors that ruin attraction, weaken masculinity, and destroy the potential for real connection. This is not about manipulation. This is about becoming a man who commands respect because he respects himself first. A man who builds boundaries instead of breaking them. A man who brings order into relationships instead of inviting chaos. We are going to start with the first 2 principles, behaviors that Jordan Peterson would argue strike at the core of a man's character. If you fail at these, nothing else matters. But if you master them, you become a man women instinctively trust, admire, and stand beside. Take a deep breath. Listen closely. Because these first 2 rules will change the way you carry yourself with every woman in your life. Never apologize for your existence. One of the most dangerous habits men develop, often without realizing it, is apologizing for simply being themselves. Not for mistakes, not for wrongdoing, but for existing, for taking up space, for having a voice, for having needs, desires, or boundaries. Jordan Peterson talks about the importance of standing up straight with your shoulders back, not as a posture tip, but as a symbolic act of accepting the burden of life. A man who apologizes for who he is communicates something deeply unattractive. I don't believe I deserve respect. And the truth is simple. If you don't believe it, she won't either. When you constantly seek approval, when you diminish your voice to please her, when you say sorry for opinions, emotions, or decisions, you are teaching her to see you as indecisive, insecure, and easily controlled. No woman, not even the kindest, softest, most empathetic woman, wants a man who doubts himself into invisibility. Confidence is not arrogance. Confidence is moral responsibility. It's the recognition that your presence matters, your words matter, your choices matter. Here's the harsh truth. If you walk on eggshells around a woman, she will eventually walk out of your life. Women are drawn to men who stand firmly in their identity, who speak clearly, who act decisively, who express themselves honestly without begging for reassurance. A man must hold his ground. Not stubbornly, not aggressively, but courageously. That is the foundation of masculine order. Never apologize for who you are. Only apologize when you truly do wrong, and do it with strength, not self-erasure. If you remove this weakness from your life, your relationships with women will transform faster than you imagine. And that leads us to the second principle, a mistake many men make out of fear, desperation, or loneliness, but one that destroys respect instantly. Never chase a woman who is pulling away. This rule is simple, but emotionally very difficult for men to follow. When a woman pulls back, emotionally, physically, or communicatively, the insecure man responds with panic. He texts more. He calls more. He tries harder. He explains himself. He asks questions. He seeks clarity. He demands reassurance. But Jordan Peterson would say this behavior shows a complete collapse of order within the man. Chasing is chaos. Chasing is fear. Chasing is the abandonment of self-respect. When you pursue a woman who is walking away, you are signaling that your value is dependent on her response. You're telling her, my purpose, my identity, my emotional stability, all belong to you. No healthy woman wants that. No stable woman respects that. And no woman is attracted to that. Attraction requires polarity, the balance of masculine firmness and feminine softness. When you chase, you destroy that polarity. You put her in the masculine role and yourself in the submissive one. A man must learn to hold his ground when a woman withdraws. Not because he doesn't care. Not because he's cold, but because he understands a crucial truth of human psychology. People value what they feel they can lose. If you stay calm, composed, and focused on your life instead of running after her, one of two things will happen, both of which are good for you. She will come back on her own. Because your stability restores her trust and reawakens attraction. She won't come back, and you'll realize she was never yours to begin with. Either way, you retain your dignity, your clarity, and your emotional integrity. A man must not chase volatility. A man must not beg for affection. A man must not collapse when someone pulls away. Your strength is measured not by how hard you chase, but by how firmly you stand. Never sacrifice your standards just to be liked. There's a truth Jordan Peterson repeats often. A man who betrays himself slowly loses the ability to stand upright in the world. And when it comes to women, this truth becomes even sharper. One of the biggest mistakes men make, one of the roots of their quiet frustration, one of the reasons they fall into resentment and emotional exhaustion, is that they sacrifice their standards just to be liked. Men lower their expectations. They accept disrespect. They tolerate inconsistency, manipulation, or emotional chaos, because deep down they fear losing the woman more than they fear losing themselves. And that is the beginning of weakness. Women might like a guy who is nice, but they are attracted to a man who has principles, a man who has a backbone, a man who doesn't fold the moment someone tests him. But here's what most men don't understand. A woman will test you, not because she wants to break you, not because she's cruel, but because biologically, psychologically, instinctively, she wants to feel that the man standing next to her isn't fragile. She wants to know, can he hold himself together? Can he lead? Can he stay grounded even when I'm emotional, confused, or challenging him? And if you keep sacrificing your standards, if you keep bending yourself into shapes to win her approval, you communicate one silent message. I am willing to betray myself just to keep you. And no woman finds that attractive. This does not mean being rigid. This does not mean being controlling. This does not mean demanding perfection. It means drawing a line between what is acceptable and what is not. It means saying, I choose you, but I choose myself too. Because the moment you drop your standards, you turn into a man who waits to be chosen instead of a man who chooses. A man who chases validation instead of walking with purpose. A man who reacts instead of leads. Women don't fall in love with men who abandon themselves to please them. They fall in love with men who know who they are. So don't compromise your boundaries. Don't dilute your identity. Don't play small. A man without standards is a man without stability. And a woman cannot trust instability. Hold the line. Speak your truth. And let the right woman rise to meet the standard rather than lowering yourself until you disappear. Never ignore red flags just because you're attracted to her. There's a psychological trap men fall into, one Jordan Peterson warns about often. The things you want the most have the power to blind you the fastest. And attraction is one of those things. It's easy to ignore reality when the chemistry is intoxicating. It's easy to justify bad behavior when the connection feels magical. It's easy to pretend you didn't see the signs. Because your emotions want the fantasy more than your mind wants the truth. But here's the harsh reality. Ignoring red flags doesn't make them disappear. It only delays the pain they will eventually cause. Many men see the signs early. She disrespects boundaries. She lies about small things. She flirts with other men to test reactions. She is unstable, manipulative, or emotionally unpredictable. She plays victim to avoid responsibility. She guilt trips. She has chaos in her life that she expects you to fix. And instead of calling it what it is, a warning, men rationalize it. She's just stressed. She'll change. It's not a big deal. She didn't mean it like that. Maybe I'm overreacting. No, you're not overreacting. You're ignoring your intuition. You're silencing the part of you that's trying to protect you. Peterson often says, to tell the truth, you must first stop lying to yourself. And this is where most men fail. They lie to themselves because the truth is inconvenient, painful, uncomfortable. But the cost of ignoring red flags is always greater later. Because the woman you choose will shape your future, your emotional health, your finances, your peace, your direction, your identity. Choosing the wrong partner is not a small mistake. It can derail your entire life. A strong man doesn't pretend he doesn't see the signs. A strong man says, I desire her, yes, but I will not sabotage my future for short-term attraction. I can walk away if the price of staying is my peace. I choose what is right, not what is easy. Wise men don't gamble their future for temporary feelings. And men who ignore red flags always pay the price. With their time, their mental health, or their self-respect. Be brave enough to see clearly, strong enough to walk away, and disciplined enough to choose a woman whose character aligns with your future, not just your desire. Never try to control or change a woman. Lead yourself first. One of the most destructive patterns men fall into is trying to control a woman, or trying to fix her, shape her, or mold her into the person they want her to be. But Peterson emphasizes a foundational principle of maturity. You must put your own house in perfect order before you try to reorganize someone else's life. And yet, many men do the opposite. They obsess over her behavior, her flaws, her past, her habits, her reactions. They try to reshape her into an ideal. They believe they can save her, guide her, fix her emotional problems. But here is the truth. You cannot lead a woman if you cannot lead yourself. You cannot change a woman who does not want to change. And you cannot control someone without slowly destroying both of you. A man's job is not to sculpt a woman into his fantasy. A man's job is to embody a life that inspires a woman to rise naturally. A woman does not follow control. She follows strength. She follows clarity. She follows consistency. She follows a man who knows who he is. When you try to change a woman, she feels judged. When you try to control her, she feels trapped. When you try to fix her, she feels broken. But when you work on yourself, your discipline, your mission, your emotional regulation, your boundaries, your integrity, she sees a man worth aligning with. That is how influence works. Not through pressure, but through presence. A woman will naturally adapt to a man who walks with purpose. She will naturally soften around a man who remains calm under pressure. She will naturally grow beside a man who grows himself. You do not change a woman by force. You change the environment by changing yourself. And in that environment, the right woman flourishes, while the wrong woman removes herself. So let go of the illusion of control. Stop trying to fix everything outside of you. Focus on the only battlefield you truly command: your own mind, habits, and standards. Lead yourself, and the woman who belongs in your life will follow, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Never lose yourself in the relationship. Maintain your mission. One of the most dangerous mistakes a man can make is surrendering his identity the moment he enters a relationship. Jordan Peterson often says, "A man needs a goal to aim at. Without it, he becomes anxious, lost, and resentful." And yet, many men forget this the moment they fall in love. They stop working on their dreams. They stop chasing excellence. They stop investing in their personal growth. They stop building the life they once imagined. Their entire focus narrows down to one thing. They check their phone constantly. They lose hours waiting for replies. They cancel plans, skip routines, abandon purpose, all in the name of prioritizing the relationship. But here is the truth women rarely say out loud. A woman doesn't want to be your entire life. She wants to join a man who already has a life. When a man gives up his mission, he becomes emotionally dependent. When he becomes emotionally dependent, he becomes anxious. When he becomes anxious, he becomes insecure. When he becomes insecure, he becomes unattractive. Not because the woman is cruel, but because she can sense that he no longer stands on solid ground. A woman falls in love with a man who is becoming something, a man who has direction, a man who wakes up with a purpose, a man who builds, grows, creates, and moves forward regardless of who enters or leaves his life. When you lose your mission, you lose the very energy that attracted her in the first place. Remember this. Your purpose is not an option. It is your anchor. It is your foundation. It is your psychological spine. A man without a mission collapses inward. A man with a mission expands outward, and that expansion creates attraction, stability, direction, and confidence. So never apologize for having goals. Never shrink your ambitions to make a woman comfortable. Never dim your fire to keep someone close. Never trade your future for temporary affection. Because the moment you abandon your mission, you abandon the man you are meant to become. Stay focused. Stay disciplined. Stay on the path. Let your relationship be a part of your life, not the replacement for your life. Never allow disrespect. Teach people how to treat you. Every man must learn one fundamental truth. You teach people how to treat you, especially women, by what you tolerate, by what you accept, and by what you walk away from. Peterson often emphasizes, if you avoid conflict, you create a bigger conflict later. And this applies directly to relationships. Most men avoid confrontation because they believe peace equals harmony. They believe silence equals strength. They believe ignoring the issue equals maturity. But in reality, silence is surrender. And surrender invites disrespect. A woman will test your limits, not to hurt you, not to overpower you, but to understand your boundaries. If you tolerate disrespect once, it becomes a pattern. If you let a small insult go unchecked, it becomes normal. If you allow emotional games, manipulation, or passive-aggressive behavior, it grows. Because when you fail to enforce boundaries, you send one message: I do not value myself enough to protect my emotional space. And no woman can trust, let alone respect, a man who doesn't respect himself. This is not about aggression, not about shouting, not about dominance. It's about clarity. It's about looking someone in the eye and calmly saying, I won't accept that. I expect better. This crosses a boundary. That is not how I choose to be treated. A strong man communicates early. A weak man explodes later. And here's the irony. Women feel safer with the man who confronts an issue immediately than with the man who swallows resentment until it poisons the relationship. A man who enforces boundaries is not controlling. He is trustworthy. A man who demands respect is not arrogant. He is grounded. A man who protects his emotional world is not selfish. He is stable. You do not get what you deserve in life. You get what you tolerate. So tolerate nothing that destroys your peace, your dignity, or your identity. Stand firm. Speak clearly. Hold the line. That is how a man earns respect. From women, from the world, and from himself. the final reminder every man needs. So as we end this video, remember this. Life doesn't require you to be perfect. Women don't require you to be flawless. But the world does demand that you grow, that you aim higher, that you stand with integrity and purpose. Jordan Peterson's message, beneath all the complexity, is simple. A man must strive toward the highest version of himself, because everything in his life rises or falls based on who he chooses to become. Do not repeat the mistakes of the modern man. Do not let desire blind you. Do not let fear weaken you. Do not let comfort dull your potential. Hold your standards. Keep your mission alive. Guard your identity. Lead yourself first. And never forget, the right woman does not want the man who gives up everything for her. She wants the man who becomes someone worth following. Stand tall. Walk with purpose. And become the kind of man whose presence commands respect, not through force, but through character. This is the path of strength. This is the path of maturity. This is the path of true attraction. And this is the path of a man who refuses to live at half his potential.